Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome in. We're so glad. We're so glad. We got something going on here with the telephone line. Let me just mute a few people here. Let's see what's going on with that. Yeah, what happens? You have to mute yourself because we're getting. Okay, so we're gonna let that go right now. All right. So, anyways, my name's Rick Farron. I'm here at the Six Screens Control Panel up here in Massachusetts, and thank you very much for being with us. I believe that was Stephen. That was Stephen Winnett out of New Zealand. He was giving me a call. I just wanted to tell you that Stephen Winnett, well, he's the biggest apostate in all of New Zealand, and he was going to come on Dick and Constance's show tonight, but he couldn't make it. Steve, I don't know if you're listening in or not, but we'll get you on next time Dick and Constance come on. But we want to thank Joe DiDorio, who just filled in for Dick and Constance tonight, and what a great job he did. Well, anyways, as I said, my name's Rick Farron. I've been exposing the Watchtower now for 20 years. We do it every Saturday night. We've never missed a Saturday night in 20 years. We are here because you are here. Let me just make sure that everything is going in the right directions. And I want to just make sure that everyone can comment that wants to. Let me just see what's happening here. All right. A lot of buttons to push here, a lot of things to take care of as we do a number of programs on this network. But I just want to make sure that everyone can hear us, and I want to make sure that things are going in a smooth way. Let me just double check this right now with my settings and make sure that you can hear us well. Yeah, we got 1, 2, 3 testing. That's fine. And the video is good as well. Okay, fine. Well, let's talk about what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Friends, I just wanted to say, as I said earlier, coming off the other show, the Six Screens have been doing this for many years now, 20 years, exposing the Watchtower. And I just wanted to mention that we have a platform here that's kind of unique. People call in from pretty much all over the world and voice their concerns of them being in the Watchtower. And we're more than just an audience. A YouTube video, and I do those too. You get an audience, but here every Saturday night we have a community. We have a community where people can come to talk, let their hair down. Many people don't want to speak up; they're still afraid that maybe someone's listening in and they'll be caught. But one of these days you can muster up the courage and call in, because when you call in, it makes all the difference in the world. It's not just me sitting here bloviating every Saturday night. They're listening to people that have really had their lives affected by being in the Watchtower organization. And I also wanted to mention that after the Six Screens radio programs tonight, and those on YouTube and those on Facebook, after that all ends tonight, if you want to continue talking, I will leave our phone line open. The number will appear on the bottom of the screen. You'll see it. So I'll leave that phone line open. If you want to talk, you can talk all night long. You will not be on the air. No one's going to trace you. No one's going to give you trouble. So by all means, if you have the opportunity, stay on the phone line when the program's over tonight, and you can talk up a storm to so many people that stay in afterwards. So anyways, I'm glad you're with us. My goodness gracious, things are really going on big time in the Watchtower. And I know you guys are trying to find out what's the latest news. What's happening? Is the Watchtower going to collapse? Is the Watchtower going to be around forever? I don't think so. We've been counting down the last days of the Watchtower for 20 years, and it's coming to an end. And, something I saw today on Reddit, and I want to thank our good friend Hillary for, alerting me to this. I saw it, but she said, Rick, I really want you to mention tonight on JW World News. So I'm going to bring it up. In Arizona, a young Jehovah's Witness person is missing But the good news is they did find the person. They did find the young Jehovah's Witness. And that happened today sometime. I don't know when. But I wanted to bring this up, and she wanted me to share it with you tonight, right here on JW World News. And what she wanted me to share with you, in fact, she was almost in tears when she talked to me about this, and it's sad. A lot of young Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't want to believe in this organization anymore. They've had enough. There's nothing in it for the young people. You tell me what accoutrements, what value, what benefits would anyone have by being a Jehovah's Witness, especially a young person? So she said, Rick, share this with the audience tonight. So I'm going to share my thoughts on this young person missing. Unfortunately, he was found, but he looked very distressed. He actually, ring the doorbells. They take a video. Someone was chasing him. He wasn't in service. He wasn't dressed as a witness. He had Crocs on. He was just dressed normally. And somehow, some way, somebody was chasing him. We never really did get the full details on it, whether it was the elders or whoever it could have been. Might have been immigration officers. Nobody really knows. But it really was a big buzz all over Reddit in the last day or so. But I wanted to, it got me thinking, and I appreciate Hillary letting me know this. She calls in from, well, I won't say where, but she calls in and she lets me know the news. And I appreciate everyone that calls me here at the Six Screens, or at least emails me and tells me the news that's going on in the Watchtower. Because, I mean, it's like a news clearinghouse here. I want to thank everyone that does that. It really helps me out a lot, letting the audience know what's going on behind the curtain, so to speak. So, anyways, this young person was on the run. They did find him, evidently, according to what I read later on today. But why I wanted to bring this up, and the reason why we even want to discuss this, is you realize right now that a lot of young people who are in the Watchtower organization don't want to be there anymore. And like I say, what's in it for? So hold on one second. Hold on one second. I'm making a call. Hello, Steve. Steve. Yeah, I'm on the air right now. You missed it. You were supposed to be on the other program. I sent you an email today, so I'll give you a call tomorrow. I sent you an email. You were supposed to be on the other program. I don't know if you read it, so I got to go back on the air. Okay, but I'll mention you. This is Steve Winnet from New Zealand. He's the biggest apostate in New Zealand, and he was going to come on tonight, but a few things took place that couldn't bring him on. So he'll be on with us in a couple of weeks. So I just want to say that many young people are leaving the Jehovah's Witness organization. And, the older ones are dying off. The older generation of Jehovah's Witnesses are dying off. They're not going to be able to fulfill their positions. Many of the elders are getting older. They're in the baby boomer generation. They're not going to be able to fill their positions. They're dropping out of major roles. Many older Jehovah's Witness elders can't take it anymore. They're saying, I can't do it. I can't keep coming to the meetings. I can't go out in service like I used to. So we have so many older Jehovah's Witness elders, as well as ministerial servants, that say, no, that's it. We can't take it anymore. So who's going to fill the role? Are the younger ones going to be able to do it? Well, let's talk about that for just a few minutes here. The younger generation of Jehovah's Witnesses, they're very PMO. Now, for those that don't know what PMO is, a PMO Jehovah's Witness is one who is physically in, mentally out. They're just going through the motions. They're not really a Jehovah's Witness, but they're afraid to leave because they know the ramifications that will come against them. So right now, I mean, you all know it. I don't have to tell you. The Watchtower is going through major changes, and there's a very big problem ahead. So when the older ones, as we say, are slowing down, Who's going to take the lead? Who's going to take their place? Well, let's just talk here for a second what's really happening. We have Generation X and the millennials. They are now part of what we're going to call here at the Six Screens the disconnected generation. Yes, the Generation X and the millennials, they are the disconnected generation. Now, that's because the Gen X and the millennials, they operate completely different than the baby boomers. I'm a baby boomer, but the Gen X and the millennials operate entirely different. Now, why are they different? Well, I'll tell you why they're different. These folks, for the most part, grew up with the internet. They grew up with networks, critical thinking. They had instant access to information. The baby boomers didn't. I mean, we didn't have that. When I first started, 20 years ago, I didn't have the internet. We had to kind of wing it. But these Gen Xers and millennials, well, they're the children and even the grandchildren of the baby boomers, and they are much more independent. They are more sensitive to authenticity. They want it right. Now, I'm not going to say that the baby boomers were dumb and didn't want it right, but I'll tell you what, because of the internet, because of the networks, these millennials and Gen Xers, they want everything right. If it lacks, authenticity, they want transparency. They're just not going to go with the flow and believe everything the Watchtower is telling them. So it's simple. Uh, the Watchtower used to tell us, me, I mean, even though they didn't come out in words and say it, but we knew they meant it. What they would say is, do it because you're told to do it. Yeah, that's basically how I look back on it. Now, you're not gonna see this in print. Maybe it's gonna sound a little bit like that, the way it's written, but basically, for us baby boomers, and even for everyone even today, the Watchtower is telling people, "You do it because we are telling you to do it." Well, this isn't working. This is not working with the Gen Xers and the millennials. Those days are over where do it because I said to do it. So let's just talk about this for a second or two. Let me just give you some ideas here. Well, the Generation X, let me give you the demographics on these individuals. The Generation X people, well, they were born 1965 and through 1980. They would be Generation X. Well, they're known for their independence, their pragmatism. They're known for their technological adaptability. Yeah, that's what the Gen Xers are known for. They grew up with computers. Now the millennials, they go well. They from 1981 to 1986. They'd be considered the millennials, and we're not even going to get into Generation Alpha. That's the newest ones. I mean, the Watchtower is not going to get any of these new ones from Generation Alpha. But let's just focus on the millennials and the Generation X. They're not buying this. Watchtower is seeing it. This is this is what Watchtower is now coming to grips with. They are having a real problem keeping the Gen X and the millennials in. And information coming in here to the Six Screens is absolutely phenomenal. More and more people are writing me, and they're telling me that so many people are leaving their congregation. Now, I'm not looking through rose-colored glasses. I'm certainly not trying to over-embellish things, but you guys are probably noticing it too. The Watchtower, on one hand, is saying, "Oh, we're growing leaps and bounds, and Jehovah's chariot is on the move." That is ridiculous. What we're seeing right now, we are seeing so many kingdom halls with empty seats, and we see so many people saying, where are all these people going? Well, these, for the most part, are millennials and Gen Xers. They have had enough. They've said that is it. Now, I think you'll agree with me. I hope you will. I mean, you watch YouTube. You watching YouTube and Facebook. Do you see how many YouTube channels as of late from Generation X and millennials that are creating videos. They're popping up like crazy all over the place. I mean, there's hundreds of ex Jehovah's Witness video sites, and millennials and Gen Xers are the ones, for the most part, that are creating them. So, I mean, I'm not just making this stuff up. And there's one thing I've noticed across the boards, and the information coming into the 6 screens is helping me to realize this. What you have now, these Gen X people, as well as the millennials, they still have, they still have children. Listen, sir, if you could just, I don't want to hear this Rick stuff. You kind of mute yourself, okay? Or I'm going to ban you, okay? You're going to have to mute yourself, or I'm going to ban you. You don't make comments like that when I'm doing a program. It's very rude, okay? You don't do it. So let me say this. So what we have here, we have Gen Xers, we have millennials that, they're kids. It's their kids that are the catalyst for making them leave. Have you thought about this? Now you have these people that are aware of what the Watchtower is up to, these younger ones. So these younger ones who have children, they're saying, well, what am I going to teach my kids? Really? What am I going to teach my kids? And then the other question they have is, how do I really talk to my children about the experiences that they're going through right now? You can't play school baseball. You can't date. So, their kids have many, many questions, and they're coming to the Gen X and millennial parents, and they're saying, hey, mom and dad, why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? So it's waking up a lot of the Gen X's and a lot of the millennials. And so we're going to have a domino effect here as well. So we have all these Gen X and millennial generation people leaving. No, not so with the baby boomers. We do have some leaving, but let's just think about this. There's going to be a domino effect. I've always thought of this. Now, if you go to a congregation and you walk in, and all of a sudden you see a lot of empty seats, well, where's Sister Zealous? Where's Brother Righteous? Well, what happened to the kingdom family? I mean, these are questions that people are asking in the kingdom halls. So when you stop and think about it, there's got to be a domino effect. I mean, if I was belonging to a kingdom hall congregation and I walked in and, half the seats are missing, nobody's sitting in them, I'd start asking questions. Hey, what happened to Sister Righteous? What happened to Brother Zealous and all of this? I mean, what would you think? The elders.
People are zooming to the meetings. Your 40-year-old parent these days is not going to the fast food restaurant as much. They're not going to church as much. They're staying home. Now, my town tonight had a little Christmas parade. It's a big deal here, and it was worth going to for a lot of the people. They showed up in the cold because it's big entertainment, and this little town does a very big parade. So people are thinking, is it worth getting in the car to do it? They're working from home, they're Zooming, they're making videos at home. If they're ex-witnesses, they're doing YouTubes. People aren't going out and doing. Our whole civilization has changed.
Well, it really has. I mean, even a new occupation, a YouTube creator. Really, people are really spending time, creating YouTube videos. The whole world has changed. We're in a technological revolution. But this idea of people leaving, they're leaving. I hate to use the phrase again, leaving in droves. It's a euphemism. I know a lot of people use it. But, when you go into a kingdom hall and you see all these people that aren't there anymore, that have left, don't you think that would lead to people questioning? Don't you think that this can cause people to be shaken up over the whole thing? What's going on? Well, what do you think? I mean, I know the witnesses sometimes don't act like they have a higher IQ than the average Joe, but they've got to be waking up. They got to be smelling the coffee to some degree. Everything is so transparent today. Yes.
Yeah, this is Stephen. Yeah, I totally agree with you. When you have a person in a kingdom hall that has a good reputation, they're a sound thinking and acting person. They know the Bible, they exhibit Christian qualities, and they leave the organization. And it's not because they went out and got involved in some kind of activity that would have forced them out, but they left of their own accord. That is definitely going to make other people in the congregation sit up and say, what is it that this person knows that we don't know as to why they left this organization? Because we know they're not a philanderer, we know they're not a drunkard, we know they're not engaged in any kind of activity that would have them removed. That this has to be something that they have learned or saw about this organization that troubled them to the point where they voted by, picking up their feet and leaving. And you can't get away from that. You can't hide that. Watchtower can do whatever it is that they want to do, but people are going to sit back and wonder, what is it that they saw or experienced or know that caused them to leave?
Well, it's a no-brainer.
And the second thing, yeah. And then if enough people start leaving, I don't know what the psychological term is, but it's like if you were to go someplace and there's a bunch of people and all of a sudden they all kind of start leaving right around the same time, your brain's going to say, maybe I need to get out of here too. Maybe it's something that they know. So as more people start to leave, people are going to question that. And at some point, there's going to be a breaking point where people are going to say, you know what, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to ask somebody, and I'm going to find out, and they're going to leave, and you're going to have less and less people over time.
Well, there you go, Stefan. And you know what the Watchtower? Yes.
Oh, I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh no, go ahead, Susan. Yeah, that's good.
Well, I was just thinking, one thing that changed is COVID. It was like the turning point. Things changed in the Kingdom Halls during COVID when people did not have to go to the meetings. And I think if people would think back to that time, that's when a lot of changes took place. People started looking things up. People didn't have to go to the Kingdom Hall, so it made it easier for them during the week. They could just go on Zoom. So I think people should think back to pre-COVID and post-COVID to see the changes in the Kingdom Hall.
Well, no doubt, Susan, there were a lot of changes. No doubt there were a lot of changes. But you know what Stefan was just talking about there too. You walk in, you see all these people leaving. And you got to start. You don't have to be the brightest person in the Kingdom Hall to notice it. And you got to be wondering why are people, I don't know what the psychological term would be like he was saying, but there might be a term for it. But you see everyone leaving. You say you're going to a restaurant and you sit down to order a nice meal. Then all of a sudden you see 10, 15, 20, 30 people get up and leave. You might do it too. You're going to follow the herd, so to speak. But I just wanted to mention, Stefan got me thinking. When I was disfellowshipped, anyways, I ran into a sister in the Kingdom Hall that I met in the market basket, doing my food shopping. So Sister Cassidy, I can still remember Sister Cassidy. So Sister Cassidy came up to me and said, "Oh, Brother Farron." Now I was disfellowshipped, okay? So she comes up to me in the market basket. This is like two months after I was disfellowshipped. And she says, "Oh, Brother Farron." She says, I don't see you at the meetings anymore. I says, "No, you don't." I says, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness anymore. "Oh, you're not? I heard that you moved to another congregation." See what they do. Well, what the Jehovah's Witnesses do, they're afraid to tell the congregants, the publishers. They're afraid to say, well, Brother Farron, he apostatized. He became an apostate. Jeez, they're very cautious on something like that, right? So because it's going to get people thinking. And it's just a little tricky way the Watchtower does business. And even I had a friend that, he had a jewelry store. And he was an elder, but he just stopped going to the meetings. He became a PMO. He didn't go to the meetings anymore. He's afraid that, someone's going to catch him or whatever. But anyways, people started asking about him. He's an elder. and he's not going to the Kingdom Hall anymore. So, of course, some of the publishers are going to come up and say to other elders, well, what happened to brother? What happened to brother? I won't mention his name, but what happened to brother? And, well, the excuse they gave is he became very materialistic, and he's, letting things, he's letting things go as far as coming to the Kingdom Hall. So they'll make up all kinds of excuses, but just tell the truth. Tell the truth, Watchtower. People aren't coming because they're finding out all about you. So that's a good thought, and I want to bring that up tonight. But anyways, getting back to the Gen X's, getting back to the millennials, they're leaving. They're leaving big time. Lots of them are leaving. And I'm not just making this up. There's no reason for me to over embellish it. You know it. If you're listening to this program tonight, you know. You talk to some of your relatives. Where are the young people? Now, let me just tell you something. Things are way more obvious and transparent today than they ever were. And of course, we have to credit the internet. Now, I've always said on our programs here that the internet is the great equalizer. You heard me say that numerous times, but I'm beginning to take a different view. I'm beginning to think people, they're not really leaving like they were, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago because of the internet. I'm thinking what's happening is some of these millennials and some of these Gen X's, they're waking up not really because of the internet. They're waking up because it's obvious. It's obvious. They're seeing through this. The Watchtower, they haven't been transparent, but as of late they are. The Gen Xers, the millennials, they're seeing JW Broadcasting. They're looking at the governing body up front and close, right? And they're saying, what? These people are so-called leading us into paradise earth. So they're seeing this, and they're seeing one flaw. They're not going to buy it. I'm telling you, they're more into.
The young people of that generation have a phrase, and they would watch the JW Broadcasting and see the governing body and turn to each other, and one would say, I call BS on that.
Yes, they
That's
would.
their phrase.
Yes,
And they have a very short fuse for anything, as you said, that's not authentic. They are on target for what works for them. Most of them grew up as latchkey kids with two working parents. They have a maturity and a lack of hierarchy that the baby boomers did not. We were used to yes, ma'am, yes, sir, and we knew where our place was in the hierarchy of our town or our school, or, as we matured, we wanted leadership. These kids are self-motivated, and they're going to do what's right for them and their young families. I see it over and over.
Well, Pixie, in fact, you got me thinking on that one. It was true. We grew up, go to school, obey a teacher, obey the policeman, do what you're told, children to be heard and not seen, seen and not heard, as the saying goes. So, we grew up in a generation that really didn't give us much leverage. We kind of had to go with the flow. But these guys, the millennials, the Gen X people, they're different. They grew up in a different age. They grew up with the social networks. They can see through this stuff, and they're seeing the flaws in the Watchtower, and they see one flaw, and then it leads to another flaw. And that got me thinking. In fact, people say to me sometimes, Rick, what's the best way to get a Jehovah's Witness out of the organization? I mean, there's no magic silver bullet here. But what I always say is, if you can just expose them to one little flaw, if they can see one flaw, maybe they'll take the initiative to see additional flaws. And, I've used the example here numerous times on the 6 screens about the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, California. The Getty Museum is an art museum. They have some of the priceless masterpieces of art that you'd ever want to find on the planet. It's really a good museum. And, the curator, I read this in the New York Times years ago, but I never forgot it. It still resonates through my thinking when I think of Jehovah's Witnesses. The curator of the Getty Museum, and this is back in the 1980s, and his name was Mr. Turner. And Mr. Turner would come down the staircase in the museum, and he kept noticing a masterpiece on the side of the wall. And he'd look at the masterpiece and he'd say, wow, something's funny about this masterpiece. The person who painted this masterpiece, that nose is not how he normally would paint it. And so you see one little flaw, then come down the next day and be looking at the picture, and even the eyes aren't right. That's not, do we have a counterfeit? Is this a counterfeit masterpiece? So they found out that they had a number of counterfeit masterpieces because you see one flaw after the other. It's the same thing with Jehovah's Witnesses. They are a counterfeit Christian religion. And you see one flaw, it can lead you to another. So if you're new listening in to the 6 screens, my advice is find a flaw. I mean, don't make the flaw up, but find one flaw and then look into it, research it, and you'll find other flaws. And another thing too, we talk about the millennials, we talk about the Gen X people getting out. There's even some millennials. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, not millennials, I should say baby boomers. There's even some baby boomers right now that are picking their bags up and leaving the Watchtower. Not a lot, not as many as the Gen X's and the millennials, but there's a lot of baby boomers. I'm going to tell you what caused it. Now, we've been talking here on the 6 screens for the last couple of months about the November issue Watchtower Study Edition. Now, that issue really rocked the Jehovah's Witness world. Now, if you were a baby boomer like myself and you were going to the meetings and you studied that in the Watchtower, what it said is that, don't plan on paradise earth being here in your lifetime. Now, here you gave your whole life up, your whole life. I mean, if I was a witness for about 50 years of my life, and I'm glad I'm out now. I'm glad Satan kicked me out of his organization, as I say. But imagine being a baby boomer for so many years, 50 years, 60 years, and you gave all of your life's effort toward this blasted organization. And now they're telling you, don't plan on it coming in your lifetime. Would that be a letdown? Would that be? I'm telling you what, that could put a person in the hospital. That could really drive a person insane. I mean, just think of the scam.
Yeah.
Yes, Stefan.
I just wanted to mention another metric, because not everybody that leaves Watchtower and becomes an ex-witness is going to, man a YouTube channel, but they're watching the YouTube channels. And I'm a part of a chat group that a person who runs an XJW YouTube channel operates. And every week, and if not every week, every other week, there's a brand new person that's been added to the chat who has just, for the most part, recently left Watchtower. And in fact, this week, we had 2 individuals who are brand new to the chat who have recently left the organization, and both of them are relatively young. And in fact, most of the people on the chat are young. And it's really interesting to me, because I guess I'm not young anymore. Things like the 1975 teaching, them joining the United Nations, the overlapping generation, all of these teaching that they're flip-flopping on, the dress and groom. These don't seem to be the things that the young people are waking up from. And I haven't gotten a full, clear picture of exactly what is making them wake up, but I can tell you for sure they're waking up. Because on this chat, like I said, if it's not every week, it's every other week. There is a brand new person that has just joined the chat, and they tell us a little bit about themselves, and they basically just recently woke up and decided they don't want to have anything to do with Watchtower. So to your point, these young ones are leaving. As I said, I'm really going to try to study this and get a feel for exactly what it is that's waking them up, because it's not the things that woke you and I up, and probably some of the ones above at our age group. I don't know exactly what it is, but they're waking up, and they're waking up in droves. So that's another metric there might be a lot of people who are leaving. Again, they don't start their own YouTube channels, but they go and they join the XJW community in different ways. So we probably can't get a picture of how many they are, but I can tell you for sure they're coming out, and this is all over the world, because the gentleman that joined just this week, he's from the United Kingdom.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that with us. And Stefan, you're absolutely right. And I'm going to add a little more to the conversation here about that. So you got most 30, 40, and 50-year-olds. Now, I'm going to tell you, many of them are still staying in the organization, but don't hold on here. They're PMOs. They're staying in the organization. I want to throw some food on the table here for you to understand what I'm saying. So you do have many that they don't believe in the Watchtower. They're PMOs, and they're 30, they're 40, they're 50, but they're actually hanging on because of their parents and their grandparents. Well, why would they do that? Well, hold on. Let me tell you why they're doing it. They know it can cause some real friction. Their grandparents and their parents, in many cases, they're getting older and they're going to die. And, they could lose an inheritance. Now, just think about this. Let's put this in your pipe and smoke it. So I'm not saying it's the mass majority of people who are young are feeling this way. But I think you would feel that way. So suppose you were a Jehovah's Witness and your mother and father did pretty well. They had a nice, beautiful house. They were baby boomers and they got housing when it was pretty inexpensive. And they own a beautiful house, a nice neighborhood. And, you're a 30, 40, 50-year-old person and you never really got a good start in life. You had trouble. So, wouldn't you hang on? I think you would. You'd hang on and say, gee, I'm not going to tell them I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness. They'll take me out of the will. So I'm just thinking a lot of these people hanging in, a lot of the PMOs, they're waiting for their parents to die off so they can inherit the house. Now, I know that sounds out there, but I don't think it's that far out there. So I think that could be what's also going on. It could be, look, I've said on this program numerous times in the last year or two, I believe that half of the Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe this anymore. I really do. I don't think I'm making it up. And I threw surveys out and people kind of agreed with me. I've even seen it on Reddit and other places where they picked up on how many PMOs are there. And it's estimated over 4 million PMOs. That is, now just if you're listening in for the first time, you don't know what a PMO is. A PMO is a Jehovah's Witness that's physically in, but mentally out. They're just going to the meetings. Yeah, go ahead. Speak up.
Hey, Rick, this is Jesse in Yuma.
Yeah, Jesse.
I agree with you 100%. But I got another dynamic about PMO and out. I don't know what it is, a POMO or PMO, but I'm proud to be out. I feel it's one of the greatest blessings. I feel like God has blessed me to have escaped the Jehovah's Witness. It's like a new lease on life. And I was in Mexico at the dentist this morning, and everything was Christmas. Everybody was Christmassy, And I was talking to the dentist about how I was an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and she knows some of my family that are Jehovah's Witness. And I was telling about the state of Christmas in the United States. I said, man, you guys are very Christmassy here. And she goes, yeah. And I go, man, not over there in Yuma? And I go, well, you don't know what's going on in the United States with Christmas. And there's so many anti-Christmas people, the atheists, the communists, the Democrats. And she didn't know because Christmas is so big over there where she was at. And she doesn't understand the attack on Christmas. And I told her that how Christmas is so important. And as a Jehovah's Witness, when I was a child in Yuma, we were the only one. I remember I was the only one who didn't celebrate Christmas in my grade. I had to sit out in the hall when they were having their Christmas party. And it hurt me so much because I believed in Jesus and I believed in Christmas. But because I was a witness, I had to sit out in the hall. And now it feels like the whole world is becoming a Jehovah's Witness. Everybody hates Christmas. And so the Jehovah's Witnesses are like a cancer cell in society. If you look at it, they're anti-Pledge of Allegiance. Now people want to not do the pledge. They're anti-Jesus. Now everybody's anti-Jesus. They're anti-Christmas. Now everybody's anti. I mean, it goes on and on. Pretty soon nobody's going to want a blood transfusion. Everybody, so I don't think, I think it's a good experience that we had being a Jehovah's Witness, because we got to see how the other half lives, and we're so happy to be out. And so now the new Christmas becomes even greater. In my life, and it's just my opinion. I would never speak for nobody else. Just in my personal opinion, Christmas is greater than ever.
Well, no, that's a fantastic suggestion, or at least thought that you brought up here. I'm thinking in terms of. Yeah, hold on one second.
They came out to the little parade tonight. They came out in the cold with snow yesterday, and everybody felt like it was a good little hometown parade, and everybody thought it was great.
Beautiful. And your hometown?
We have little independent shops here, and it's a very quaint architecture, and the town is really thriving.
What town?
I'm not going to tell.
Okay, no. Oh, I didn't mean anything by that. I was just curious. That's all. Please forgive me.
But it's southern. It's southern, and the town is before 1800.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, I live in Yuma. So, and I just noticed that the Christmas spirit, I felt it stronger in Mexico than in my hometown. And it was reversed. I remember 50 years ago in the bicentennial, Christmas was so big, so big. We were always embarrassed being Jehovah's Witness because we were the odd man out. Now we're like normal. Now they're like normal. Everybody hates Christmas,
Well, I am so much for this 250th next year, so I hope everybody can have some kind of simple costume and really be all about 250.
Yeah, I'm going to go as Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, Ben was cool.
Yeah, he was cool. He was so smart. I think he might have been the first Mexican American, because that guy was smart.
I tell you what, the young girls liked him. There was quite an age difference there. Ben had a.
Well, listen, we don't want to get too far off there. Hold on, we don't want to get too far off the track here. Okay, let's kind of. I got I got the news. But Jesse, I appreciate what you're saying. No, there's this idea of Christmas too. But I'll tell you something. I'm seeing even online that more ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are starting to participate a little bit. It took me a little bit after leaving the, actually it took me a little bit after leaving the Watchtower. They damage you so much about the holidays that, it's very hard to get excited and get enthused about them. But now I'm starting to come around. It's the first year that I put some lights on the house. My wife, Susan, got some decorations and put out there. I mean, it's not the most lit up house on the block here, but it's the first time we really did that. It takes a little while. When the Watchtower has rented space in your head for so many years and you couldn't do certain things, it's very hard to, after being told over and over and over again about how pagan it is, how bad it is, it's hard to get your engines revved up again,
Criminal.
Yeah, criminal too, yeah. Well,
Saturnalia.
Yeah. Well, Jesse, you're a good man. Don't you ever change. And I think Benjamin Franklin could have been Mexican. He could have been,
We're burning stove.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much. Same to you, Jess. Well, I'll tell you what, you're on 6 Screens, JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about, but we talk about it every Saturday night and every other Sunday right here on the 6 Screens Telenetwork. I want to move on to something here. I want you to know that we are, and you know what, anyways, I don't have to tell you, we are in a Renaissance era right now. We are in something that is totally different. This AI, artificial intelligence. I know that's all you hear, but I mean, it's so, yes. Who's this?
This is Jeff from South Florida. So I wanted to let you know, I'm what you guys call millennial, generation Y2K, one of those born between 1980 to 2000. And you also lead, I'm one of those that could see through the hypocrisy of the Watchtower leadership, and I'm thankful I didn't ever go to Brookwood Bethel, because for me personally, it was so polluted out there, and I'm looking back on it, and with the internet, I could look up on Find a Grave, you could see how burial locations of Watchtower Farm Cemetery, and history is my game.
Well, what
History
year?
and all that.
Well, what year were you born? Are you a Gen Xer? I mean, I thought you sound more like a millennial to me.
Millennial, Generation Y2K.
Well, what year were you born?
1986.
Well, what 1986? Well, if you were born in 1986, yeah, you're a millennial. The millennials were from 1981 to 1996. So you feel that the millennials have had enough of the Watchtower?
All I can say is I'm one of those people that can see through the hypocrisy and inconsistencies of history and prophecies and all that.
Well, good for you. Well, thank you for checking in and solidifying that. Yeah.
And I still won't participate in Christmas. And ever since the COVID virus thing, I would much prefer to stay at home and watch YouTube and all that, and play on my laptop, play on the computer, so to speak. And I prefer not to go out to eat, or still carrying that paranoia about being spied on.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of ex-witnesses have called in here and even said they were spied on when they were witnesses, just like yourself.
Yeah.
Well,
I
thank.
still have my relationship with my mom, but I still disagree with the Christmas thing and the holidays and all that.
That's all right. I mean, you can do that. Nobody's going to force you to do it, but when you're comfortable, you do it. Yeah.
Otherwise, I grew up in a time when AIDS became the thing, and blood transfusion. That's just another reason why Jehovah's Witnesses don't take blood transfusion. It's because of AIDS, and I don't ever remember personally any Jehovah's Witnesses who have died of AIDS because of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for, bringing these things up tonight and checking in with us and being a real millennial. It's always good to hear from the millennials, and thank you for calling into the program. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Yep. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Yes.
There's one point I forgot to mention when I was talking about the group chat. In those group chats, there are also active witnesses. Some are in the situation that you just described, where they don't believe it anymore, but they can't leave for whatever reasons. They're in the chat. We consider them friends. And then we have active witnesses that just are checking out the other side for whatever reason. But that lets you know that there's something in their mind that's allowed them to go and check out the other side. They probably just have a deep feeling like something is wrong with this organization. Let me go and investigate why people are leaving. But on those chats, and I can tell you for sure, in fact, I met a husband. Their sister left 3 months ago. So she's a brand new ex-witness. And she joined our chat. We talk all the time. We even had video chat. And on the video chat, she brought her husband and introduced her husband. He is a full-fledged, card-carrying Jehovah's Witness, active. I don't think he's an elder, but he's an active witness. But he said it on the chat. He said he was listening. He said he was sort of undecided on some things and all the rest. So I just want to say that, to your point, yeah, there's definitely witnesses that no longer believe but are staying for whatever reason. And there's actual active card-carrying witnesses who are checking out the XJW witness community because they sense something is wrong and they want to know what we know that they don't know. Thanks, Rick.
Well, there you go. There you go, Stephen. Thank you. Yeah, I want to tell you, folks, about this AI too. As we started mentioning, it's really changing the world we live in. And it's a big difference. We've always had Google search and Bing search, but, we now have AI. But let me tell you the difference between AI and regular search engine. You want to check out Jehovah's Witnesses. So you punch it into Google and, a bunch of things show up. And, you kind of have to decipher which ones you're going to watch. But AI really cuts to the chase. You punch in, for example, I've got some artists that work here for me at the Six Screens, and we have a really excellent artist that is into AI. So in the last months, I said, we've got to come up with an AI video, and let's start producing some AI videos. You want to make sure they're factual. So let's start producing some AI videos. Let's start with Charles Taze Russell. So you've heard it here before, and it's all over the internet as well, that Russell actually even thought of himself as being a jellyfish. And you say, what? A jellyfish? Well, he couldn't keep his hands off of women. That's a fact. You can check it out online. He could not keep his hands off women. So it actually caused a divorce between his wife, Maria. Now, I say Maria. You could say Mariah. So don't let that bother you. So, in English, we would say Mariah, but Maria. But you can go wherever you want with it. But I want you to see this video. This video was produced by an artist of ours here at the Six Screens. And friends, it's gone pretty much viral out there. People really love it. So we're going to really do more of them, because the way that I look at it, right now we have a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that really are not moving out of the Watchtower. A lot of young ones are, but we got so many in there. We're trying to get them out. We're trying to get as many Jehovah's Witnesses out of the organization. And one thing I have learned, one thing that I've picked up on the trail of life, is the way that we all think. We think in pictures, we reason in pictures, and we are moved to action in pictures. So I talked to the artist here at the Six Screens. I said, we have to come up with a video depicting Charles Taze Russell as the jellyfish that can't keep his hands off women. And I wanted to bring in Maria. I wanted to kind of show them when they were younger together. And so we made about a 2-minute clip here. I want to play it for you. I've been waiting for a good part of a week here. I want to play it to my audience here tonight on the Six Screens. So let's share it right now. This is it's been put up on TikTok. It's gone thousands of clicks on TikTok. We've got lots of clicks here on Facebook and YouTube. So let's play the clip. I believe you'll find it very, very fascinating. So let's play the clip, and hopefully you'll be able to see this is Charles Taze Russell calling himself a jellyfish.
I float around here and there.
Much controversy surrounded the marriage of Maria Ackley and Charles Taze Russell. 1 year after The Watchtower was first published, Russell married Maria in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Maria took interest in Russell through his teachings, assisting him in theocratic activities. As the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society progressed, contention was brewing under the surface. In 1903, Maria filed for divorce and legal separation on the grounds of mental cruelty, cold indifference, and infidelity. During the trial, allegations were made of improper intimacy between Charles and Rose Bull, a 25-year-old whom the Russells had cared for their foster daughter. According to the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, which published an article of the legal details, Maria had stated that one night, she found Charles in his nightrobe sitting on Rose's bed. On other occasions, Maria found Charles with his arms around her, kissing her. Maria alleged that Rose told her that Charles referred to himself as a jellyfish.
I float around here and there. I touch this one and that one. And if she responds, I take her to me. And if not, I float on to others. I'm like a
All right, so you heard that. So that's a video that one of our artists here at the Six Screens put together. Now, next week, I hope to share with you Johannes Grieber. So what we're trying to do with the new Six Screens website, it really need revamping. I mean, it was outdated. It was kind of like just going nowhere. So we're really getting in there and trying to make it a premier website. So AI is going to help us. It's going to help us to be able to take some of these stories that we've heard along the trail, Russell and Miracle Wheat, Rutherford taking over, where the Bible students stayed with him, and the rest of the people. I'm sorry, the Bible students left Rutherford, and it was very controversial at the time. So many different stories. Beth Sareem, Johannes Grieber, as I say, that we want to bring up. The United Nations. These are things that a lot of new ones leaving the Watchtower haven't found out. But if they can see it in pictures, it can make all the difference in the world. So I wanted to share that with you guys tonight. I hope you liked it, because you're going to see a lot more of this. And AI is the way that films are going to be made. In fact, a lot of people thought that was a trailer to a movie. Well, it's not a trailer to a movie, but maybe, if we get enough comments about it, we will make a movie and do it all through AI. You can have, look at that. You can see Maria actually talking, and you can see Charles Taze Russell chastising his wife. You can do some really good things and get the witnesses really thinking. So let's hope that can all work out. Well, let me see what else is going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Let's scroll down here. Okay. Well, Garrett Loesch, governing body member. He's the second oldest member. Samuel Hurd is the oldest. I believe right now he's 93. Garrett is going to be 88 or 89, somewhere in there. But it was sad news this week. Garrett's wife, her name was Marita, and she died. Now, I find that sad. I did meet Marita. I was at one time a friend with the governing body member Loesch, and I'd still be his friend. I don't think he wants to be my friend anymore, but I had a number of conversations with Garrett Loesch. He invited me, like I said, to come down to Watchtower back in the year 2000. I went down to Brooklyn, and I met Marita, and she was nice. And the one thing I noticed is she was really well dressed. It's something that and she was an attractive woman, and she was really well dressed. And it kind of boggled my mind a little bit, because, I thought that the governing body and their wives and all the people living at Bethel, I thought they were all not poor, but, just snudging by like the rest of Jehovah's Witnesses. But I was in for a rude awakening. Boy, they wear beautiful clothes. The governing body's wives, they have beautiful jewelry. They have Marita was wearing a beautiful scarf, an expensive scarf. It wasn't something you got at, Kmart. It was a very expensive scarf. And that really kind of concerned me somewhat. I'm saying, I'm a Jehovah's Witness. I'm busting my butt, trying to raise a family, trying to stay in the so-called truth. And, I make a living. I'm a regular Joe. I'm not a millionaire or anything, but I'm a working class guy like most Jehovah's Witnesses, struggling along. And I see this opulence, and it really did throw me for a little bit of a loop. So I'm thinking in terms of, well, what's going on really with this? We have a lot of governing body members are getting older. Now, just a month or two ago, Stephen Lett, his wife died as well. Her name was Susan. And so his two governing body wives that have died in the last couple of months. Now, it got me thinking, and I certainly have, I would never in any way, my condolences and feelings go out for anybody that dies, whether they're witnesses or not. It doesn't really, persuade me not to speak about it and offer my feelings. But what I wanted to bring up is, the governing body members, they have to be anointed. They have to be anointed. And I know that is a fact. Brother Loesch told me that to be a governing body member, you have to be anointed. But, not all the wives are anointed. So that creates an issue. So, I'm sure Garrett Loesch isn't listening to this broadcast tonight, but I could just give you a little story of what happened to me. Now, you all know that my former wife, Inez, her name was Inez, and she was a partaker. She started partaking of the emblems back in 1989. And, everyone thought she was crazy for doing that. And, even there was a lot of controversy around it. So I want you to put yourself in this position. So my former wife, she was of the anointed class Jehovah's Witness. She was a partaker of the emblems. Myself, I wasn't at the time. So anyways, I can remember it was a lot of controversy in the congregation. People were kind of murmuring and gossiping behind our back, and they're saying, how is Rick going to deal with his wife being an anointed? And he's not. At the time, I wasn't. I later became one, but at the time, I wasn't. So they're saying, how can a Jehovah's Witness couple even survive? How can their marriage even be held together if you have one who's anointed and going to go to heaven and the other one's got an earthly paradise hope? I mean, how are they going to handle this? So I remember I went out to supper. A witness couple invited me and my former wife to come to this house for supper. So we went there, and it was brought up at the supper table. And it really was kind of rude, I thought. I mean, out of the blue, the brother, he asked me, he says, Brother Farron, isn't it hard being married to an anointed one when you're not anointed? And how do you really deal with that? Isn't this a tough thing to deal with? I said, no, it's not tough. She has a hope of going to heaven. I, at the time, have a hope of living on earth. But you can see the friction that could happen here. And it got me thinking today with Brother Loesch, his wife dying. And it got me thinking with Brother Let's, I say brother here in a vernacular way. They're not my brother really, but I'm saying it to stay in the context of the story. So even Brother Let's wife, I don't believe she was anointed. Many of the wives aren't anointed. So, I don't know how they're dealing with it, but the way that I dealt with it, if I had it didn't bother me. I mean, I wasn't like walking around depressed because I got thinking about it. If I went to a psychiatrist and I said, Doc, I got a problem here. I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And, my wife, when she dies, she's going to heaven. And, when I die, I'm going to live here on earth and I won't be with her. I mean, could you be psychologically challenged over that? I mean, the witnesses in my congregation thought I was, but I wasn't. I mean, basically, it was business as usual. But the way that I looked at it, I got thinking, I can only live in one world at a time. I mean, let's cross that bridge when we get to it, right? How can you live in two worlds? But this is how wacky, this is how strange it is in the Watchtower organization. You have all these little dilemmas that are thrown out, and then they make, mountains out of molehills. We had Joe Doderio on earlier, and he was talking about how the elders make mountains out of molehills, and that's true. So that's the experience I have. So I wonder if these brothers are going through the same experience. Their wife just died.
I have a
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a comment I wanted to make.
Yes,
This
Apostle.
is Apostle Great-Winded,
Yeah.
and being that this is such a patriarchy based organization, I would think that the thought of a wife or a woman ruling over a man would be part of the accusation of being uncomfortable. I've always teased you that you became anointed because your previous wife became anointed, and you wouldn't have been able to hang with her ruling over you because she's a woman. But, you've always told me otherwise. But when you think about it, within a patriarchy culture, I would think men would have a hard time with the idea of a woman ruling over them in that position of being in heaven. What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting, Apostle Baby. That never came into my mind about her having a higher position than I had, and I was accused of that so many times. Well, she was anointed, and I'm gonna share some stories, little thoughts about this anointed because it comes up a lot. But she came to me and said that she was anointed, and in 1989, and she now had a different hope. We went out to breakfast, and I mean, really, she was in tears because she didn't know how to really say it to me. But she said, I want to talk to you about something serious. I didn't know if she was going to leave me or what it was. So I went out to breakfast with her, and I know she was trying to get it out, but she couldn't. Tears came to her eyes, and she said, Rick, she says, I got to tell you something. She says, I no longer have a hope of living on earth. Okay. I mean, I wasn't, I didn't, drop over backwards or anything. I said, well, tell me more. She says, well, I now feel I'm of the anointed class. I'll be partaking. I said, well, that's a good hope. I mean, I didn't try to discourage her from it, but, I wasn't like, oh, geez, what's going to happen now to me? I mean, you can only live in one world at a time, Apostle Babe. But I had that thought of her being over me it never came into my mind. No, it didn't. No. Yeah, so it's kind of a dilemma these guys are faced with. Uh, you don't know how they would feel. I mean, I know how I felt, and I have to tell you, just for the record here, if you're listening in, don't look at when Jehovah's Witnesses talk about the anointed. Don't let that rock your boat. Okay, uh, that's not some patented secret word of the witnesses. If you're a Christian person today, and you're wanting to follow in the footsteps of Jesus, then you would be what they would call anointed. Every Christian is anointed. So this idea, the baloney, the Watchtower puts on anointed witnesses is over the top. It's just absolutely nuts. But they have to do it. They have to find a nucleus, and this faithful and discreet slave who supposedly is being taught by Jehovah to give all the witnesses meat in due season, that is a crock of baloney. But that's the reason why it comes up, the anointed and what have you. But they look at the anointed as something entirely different than the real world of Christianity does. So I wanted to bring that up, but we wish really Brother Loesch, Gerald Loesch, we wish him the best. I'm not, I mean, it's a sad time for him. He lost his wife, but let's see how it all works out. But I really wish that some of these governing body members too could throw the towel in. I really do. And I know, people have even asked me, Rick, do you think the governing body really believes this is the truth? The answer is no. The answer now, there's many out there that say, oh, yes, Rick, it's a self-contained religious group from the bottom to the top. Everyone believes it's the truth. The governing body doesn't believe this is the truth. These are business people. These are people who have lived a good life from the Watchtower. That they know the scandalous issues the Watchtower is faced with. They know it's not the truth, but they got to tell you it's the truth to preserve their lifestyle. So just a thought on that. You might differ, but that's okay if you do. In the ex-witness world, sometimes we have to hyperventilate, so to speak. We have our own ideas, right? You can see that in Reddit. You can see it in JWN. You can see it on YouTube. We all have different ideas. I don't know who's really exactly right on all of this. We know the witnesses are wrong, but they don't share things with us, so-called apostates. So sometimes we have to hypothesize. We have to hypothesize. As a matter of fact, I wanted to bring. Someone want to say something? Go ahead. All right.
It's Matthew from Africa. Can I participate?
Yeah, of course. Yes, Matthew. Go ahead.
Rick, did you ever come across Sydney Barber? Did you ever meet her at the headquarters?
Who was it?
I don't mean to put you on the spot there, Rick, but I met her just after her husband died. And of course,
well, I did. I didn't get the name. What was her name?
Sydney. She was married to Carrie Barber. But let me take some heat off you because I met her. I just found it very, very interesting that with those that had a spouse that was on the governing body, you'd think that these ones would be in a position where there's an absolute surety that when their spouse passes into heaven, and they are launched off the launch pad, that their love would become perfect. Because on the other side, you would imagine that Carrie, his love is now immortal. So surely, as a mate that's immortal in heaven, what would happen to that love connection? It would transcend barriers. It would transcend time. It would transcend space. And you would imagine that Carrie would have that incredible connection with Sydney. But my experience was with governing body members that they wouldn't talk like this. Yes, you would sit in their chair. I mean, you've had that experience there with Garrett. I had something similar, not quite exactly the same as yours. I think by that time they were a lot more cautious. But when I was there, they invited me to Carrie's chair. And yes, there was this idea that they transcended, and they would be looking on with you, but they never went into these kind of details. And you would imagine that that would be the first thing that would be established, but it was absolutely taboo and it was absolutely off limits. It wasn't discussed in that way. Anyway, it's just a curious experience, Rick. I don't know what that contributes, but I find that that is a very curious thing. And you would imagine that, like Jesus appearing to Thomas, and Thomas being the doubter, saying, well, you know, I need you to put your fingers in my, or I need to be able to put my fingers into the holes in your hands and have some sort of tangible evidence that those substituting for Christ now, there would be some sort of evidence, even through the established theocratic channel, that they had reached the other side.
Well, I see where you're going with that, Matthew. It's see, this is where the doctrine, this is where the doctrine of the Watchtower gets really messy, and even when it is around marriage, and you can remember, and all the people listening into the program can remember. Let's go back to the 1970s, for example. I remember my aunt. She was married. She was Jehovah's Witness, married to a Jehovah's Witness man. So my uncle died, and my aunt was really distraught because the teaching of the Jehovah's Witnesses at that time is if your mate died, you know, you wouldn't be married to them in the resurrection and on the new earth, the new society. You wouldn't be married to that person. So I can remember she was kind of bothered by that. You know, in time of grief, you can't think in terms of, well, that's it for me. My husband's gone. I'll never see him again. I mean, the witnesses, then they retracted that view. They no longer, from what I understand, teach that because it was too hard on a person that was grieving. So this is where their doctrine runs amok. They put people in a very awkward position, and even that position that governing body member Loesch is in now, and even Stephen Lett with his wife that just passed a couple months ago, they don't know how. I'm sure they're thinking about it. If they really love their wife to some degree, they got to be thinking, well, what's this all about? Well, what hope do I have of seeing this person again? So I'm sure that's running through their mind, you know.
You see, Rick, there was a few things I couldn't reconcile because I would have experiences with elders confessing to me that they're speaking with their spouse who had died. But you see, in psychology, it's recognized. And in faith-based systems, it's recognized because the memory lives on in a person, especially if they've shared life and spirit with the person. They, just out of habit, they go, well, Arthur, what do you think about this? Or Susan, what do you think about this? Or Carrie, what do you think? So it is recognized in psychology that this happens. So, and I would have various ones say to me, yes, I'm in contact with the other side. So that was coming through in the culture. Very definitely, and I find that curious.
Huh. Yeah, I never heard that, Matthew. That's interesting. Yeah. Well, man. Well, thank you for chiming in. Appreciate your thoughts. Always,
Thanks for listening.
you always get us thinking, Matthew. You always get us thinking. I'll tell you that. All right. So, well, I'm gonna move. Well, let's move on to another story here. But our condolences go out to Brother Loesch at this time. I say brother again, but it's not really my brother. So anyways, let's go here. I got thinking. I got thinking of all these changes the Watchtower is making. My goodness, it's like I can't even keep up with them, and you guys can't either. But I'm thinking here the timing might just be perfect for the Watchtower organization. And what got me thinking of this is, as of late, the Watchtower has really gained ownership of most of the Kingdom Halls around the world. Now, they've been working toward this effort for numerous years right now, but they almost, according to what I've read about, property of the Watchtower, they just about own all of the Kingdom Halls around the world right now. So at the same time, this has taken place, say within the last couple of years, that all the titles to the Kingdom Halls have been handed over to the Watchtower. It's not owned locally anymore. So I'm thinking, whoa, wait a minute. I'm scratching my head. Something is not passing the smell test here. Something is not right. I mean, was this a scam? Was this really a scam? If they came out with all of these changes prior to getting the title signed over to them, maybe there'd be a lot of rebuttal. Maybe there'd be a lot of the elders and congregants, publishers that said no, because, a lot are really questioning these changes now. So they probably figured, okay, let's get all the Kingdom Halls signed over to us, then we'll drop a whammy on them. And so this seems to have taken place now that the Watchtower has seized all of the financial assets of the Kingdom Halls. And they made changes that, if they made them before they had the titles turned over, maybe they would have offended many of the publishers. So did they plan this all out in a financial way before they started making these announcements for new changes? In fact, when I think of the Watchtower, excuse me, when I think of the Watchtower, they're really like they're like a pickpocketer. They pickpocket you, and then they look you right in the eyes while they're stealing your wallet. That's what a pickpocket does. They'll come up, they'll start a conversation, talk to you, look at you in the eyes, and then pull your wallet out of the back pocket of your pants. That's exactly what the Watchtower is doing here. They pickpocketed these witnesses. They took these Kingdom Halls over, and they talked a good game. They looked them right in the eyes. Oh, this is for the benefit of you. And now they have the titles, and now they got all these changes. So the witnesses, I don't think really realize what happened. They got pickpocketed. And, how many times have we heard when we were Jehovah's Witnesses that, we don't pass plates around like the rest of the churches of Christendom? How many times have you heard that? I mean, I've heard it numerous times. They still use that line, even right up to this date. We don't pass plates around for donations. Oh, no, you don't pass plates around because you don't have plates that are big enough. You don't have plates that are big enough to fit into your $10 billion real estate empire. So these are things I'm thinking about as I go over this. I'm thinking, boy, something's wrong with all these changes. At least Jesse James took his loot with a gun. The Watchtower is doing it in a very scandalous, deceitful way. Watchtower, the jig is up. I mean, seriously, we all know the jig is up. The game is over. The Watchtower knows it. They've been found out about. Yeah, the world is catching up on the Jehovah's Witnesses. The world now knows that they are frauds. The world knows they're charlatans. See, they're Bible peddlers. I mean, would you think a Bible peddler would be corrupt? Would you think a person that's so dear and close to the scriptures would be telling you a lie? Well, the Watchtower's done it. I mean, they've been telling lies for years. And that 1914, that this is what really is of concern to many, many Jehovah's Witnesses. They really don't mention it anymore. It was a bunch of bunch of baloney. Their entire religious foundation is crumbling under their feet. That they can't use 1914, this generation scam they pulled on us. They have nothing left, folks. They have nothing left. The nucleus of their organization is falling apart. It really, really is. Hey, I wanted to thank Mr. CIA. That's what he goes by, Mr. CIA. And just it was a couple of weeks ago, they had the Assembly Hall dedication on Long Island, New York. Now that was the Geico building. Remember we talked about that, the Geico building. They bought it, I think, for I think it was $21 million. And they bought the guy, it was insurance building, and they bought it and they turned it into an assembly hall. So I want to thank Mr. CIA for giving us this information. So on Saturday and Sunday of November 29th and 30th, a couple of weeks ago, that they had the dedication. Now, who gave the talk? Jeffrey Jackson. He actually gave 2 talks on that day at the dedication. And what was interesting here, I really liked what Mr. CIA mentioned to us. Now, Jeffrey Jackson said this. If you can believe it, this is crazy stuff, friends. Jeffrey Jackson brought out how they have to change some scriptures in the Bible. He said they have to change some scriptures in the Bible. Evidently, it's not suiting their new routine, or it's not going along what they previously have taught. So openly, he told those who came to the dedication and on Zoom that they have to change some scriptures in the Bible. Now, wouldn't that bother you? I'll tell you what, if I heard that, I'd have to get up and leave. I couldn't bear that. You're not supposed to play around with the scriptures. And he also said that Jehovah really answered their prayer to be able to get this assembly hall, and how they really had to have Jehovah's help and permission to be able to get the town to go along with an occupancy permit. I guess originally, the town didn't want to have an assembly hall there. I guess probably because of traffic would be the main reason. But he says Jehovah really answered their prayers, and Jehovah got it through for them. How many times have you heard things like that? I mean, what about other institutions? Don't they get special positions and favors from the town fathers as well? Of course they do. But there was 1,500 people in person at this dedication. There was 16,000 plus on Zoom. And I didn't realize it, but Mr. CIA told me there's 80 congregations on Long Island. Now, that's interesting. That's a lot of congregations. That's why they probably need the assembly hall. But I wanted to bring that to your attention tonight. And, the organization keeps saying they're growing. But see, what they're doing is they're not telling you about the assembly halls they've sold off around the world. They sold off numerous assembly halls, but they're in New York. Well, they like New York. I mean, that's where the world headquarters is. And so they do have a new assembly hall in Long Island. Well, anyone have any thoughts on?
Rick.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's Matt chirping up again.
Yeah.
Rick, Jeffrey Jackson also was the one who did the video where they said that they've decommissioned or removed the purple Greek interlinear Bible. But I remember raising this with writing department and research, and it turns out that we have photographic copies of the Biblica Hebraica and the Leningrad Codex, but we don't make or JW doesn't make it available to the congregants, to the students, to the Bible students. Don't make it available. And I found that very, very curious that we have access even to Dead Sea Scrolls by way of photographs, but now we withdraw the purple Greek interlinear. I just thought I'd contribute that.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, we know that they're spiritually they're all over the map, but they're going to have to make some serious changes, Matthew. There you go. Well, anyways, I wanted to bring up as well that this idea of the cart witnessing. We talked about them being at the Super Bowl. They go to the giant soccer matches around the world. They go to different venues where there's a lot of people, and they're trying to proselytize with these carts. So information came to me this week about Disneyland and how the witnesses are now setting up carts, evidently inside Disneyland, and it's really remarkable because when I was a Jehovah's Witness, and even as an ex-witness, I've always found that the Jehovah's Witness organization, they don't really appreciate Disney. I mean, they have these Disney X. Their music sounds very Disney X, so to speak, Disney S. But at the same time, I'm finding that they're setting booths up where they really don't, they're in a pagan, happy place that celebrates magic, sorcery, and demonic power. Is that the place to really set up your Christian cart, so to speak? So I'm just thinking, they picked on Disney movies. They talked about how bad some of these movies are, Little Mermaid and some of this stuff. But to actually be involved in Disney World with your cart, it gives me mixed feelings here. The Watchtower, they can say everything they want. They can condemn sorcery. They can condemn Disney movies, but magic, the Magic Kingdom, and all of this. But yet there they are in it. How is it the Watchtower gets away with all this? It just doesn't make any sense to me that people can't see through it. But I suppose when I was a witness too, I couldn't see through it either. But it's really something to see that they're going to any ends they can to gather new people to come into their organization. Well, any thoughts at all? You want to speak up? Go ahead. If not, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Rick. Jeffrey Jackson should take a few minutes and read the book of Revelations. It tells you in Revelation that anybody that changes the Bible, changes the scriptures, is going to be cursed. Thank you, Rick.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking of, Dick. That's exactly what I was thinking of. In fact, they're going to get double the punishment. You don't play with God's words. But to be able to come out like that, and Mr. CIA told me that. He says, Rick, it was like, what? He said they have to change some scriptures. Well, why would you change scriptures to begin with? Well, the reason why, even the New World Translation, I mean, we know there's many scriptures in there that have been written in such a way to suit the Watchtower's agenda, to fit into their line of thinking. But now that their line of thinking is all over the map and their line of thinking is crazy, maybe they do have to change some things. So, I find all of this, no wonder why there's so many people, especially the young ones, as we said earlier, that are leaving. No wonder why they're doing that. It's just unbelievable. And, I'm really thinking about how things are changing. As a matter of fact, even if I don't know if you probably don't watch JW streaming, the videos they have on there. Excuse me. But, they had something that caught my attention that I wanted to bring up. Again, what's good for the goose should be good for the gander. But, we've always known that Jehovah's Witness women, for example, then they're not allowed to teach from the platform at a meeting, right? I mean, they can get up there with another sister, and the sister's the householder, but they're really not supposed to stand up there by themselves and teach. This has always been a bone to pick for many sisters in the Watchtower. The men can get up and speak, but we can't. We have to speak, to a household. It was another sister. But then there's a video on JW Broadcasting that shows a woman teaching men. Now, this is what's very hard for me to come to grips with. How can you say on one hand one thing, but then you see on the other hand another thing? But it goes back to the old saying I continually tell you almost every week here. The Watchtower, like all cults, they tell you before they tell you. And then they tell you while they're telling you. And then they tell you what they told you. I hope that's not too confusing for you. But for them to continue to say a woman cannot teach from the platform in a Kingdom Hall or Assembly Hall or convention, but yet to see one preaching on jw.org to men, and she's standing up there teaching, what this is showing me is something's changing. Is that going to be the next? Is that going to be the next change in the Watchtower? Sometimes you're going to pick up on these little clues. Are they kind of showing that? So maybe in the next 6 months, new light. Women can now give talks. I mean, they're running out of men. They're running out of elders, ministerial servants. Let's get the women. So let's kind of drop a little trial balloon off here on JW Broadcasting and show the audience this woman teaching. Maybe people might not notice it. It'll be kind of like subliminal, but then they'll come out and say, oh, no, we have been doing that for years. I mean, that's how the Watchtower does things. And it's very, very confusing. I mean, it's confusing for the ex-witness. It's confusing for me. I mean, wouldn't it be confusing to a card-carrying Jehovah's Witness to see this stuff? I mean, do they really think, I think about this too. Does the Watchtower really think that Jehovah's Witnesses is that stupid? So, sometimes I think they do. I really do. I think the organization, but not all Jehovah's Witnesses have a low IQ. Maybe they can pull the wool over in some of their eyes. But come on, guys, if you're listening to this program tonight, I mean, don't you see the double standards? Don't you see the forked tongue? They speak out of both sides of their mouth. I mean, obviously, it's so obvious. Well, I'll tell you, friends, it's just amazing what goes on in the Watchtower. And we're glad to be able to report it every Saturday night and every other Sunday. Now, tomorrow is not Six Screen Sunday. We'll be back in another week with Six Screen Sunday. But I want you to know, too, that what I'll do here, we're going to close out the newscast tonight. And what we're going to do is I'm going to leave the telephone lines open. I talked to you about this when we first started the program. The telephone lines will be open. So if you want to talk, a lot of people don't want to come on and talk on the air, but they don't mind coming on and talking off the air. So here's a chance to talk to your fellow apostates, criticizers of the Watchtower. You can, if you're on the telephone line, if not, take a look on YouTube, take a look on Facebook right now, take that number down, call it after the program. There'll be people in there talking, and hey, they talked up at the storm the last few weeks. So I'll leave the lines open and go ahead, talk with some friends, meet some new friends on a real conference call of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. That's how we started out, and now we're on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook as well. So what you want to do is call in tonight when the broadcast ends. You try it out, get into the conference call, talk to some of these people. Well, friends, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. I really do. I appreciate your presence and spending a Saturday night here with us. I want you to keep standing tall. I never want to, don't ever let your visions die, and don't you ever give in, up, or out. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. We'll see you next Saturday night right here on the Six Screens Tele Network. Thank you.